MAPS is built on top of an old forgotten creed of truth. Freedom, liberty, and grit. These three fellas, Sal, Adam, and Justin, have built MAPS bodies right here in the good old US of A. They built these bodies to last and endure through the toughest of terrain, mud, rain, or snow. If your body is running on anything else, well, Godspeed, and I'll see you in hell! Whoa, MAPS America! Make sure you go check out all our awesome MAPS programs at mindpumpmedia.com.
If you want to pump your body and expand your mind, there's only one place to go. Mind Pump. Mind Pump with your hosts, Sal DiStefano, Adam Schaefer, and Justin Andrews.
In this episode of Mind Pump, for the first 50 minutes, we do our introductory conversation. We start out by talking about having children later in life and a declining population in some countries. Adam's making the case here. We talk about Mind Pump's newest sponsor. Super excited about this. It is a cannabis delivery company. It's available only in California.
Sorry. You heard it first. We're the first.
It's Ease. The company name is Ease, E-A-Z-E. Now, you go online, you create your own account online. You have to provide your phone number. You have to have a valid government ID because you have to be 21 or older. You wait for an approval. It takes about 5 minutes. And then you browse local products from local dispensaries, and they literally deliver it to your door. Check this out. We are hooking you up. So if you go to ease.co, that's eaze.co/mindpump, you can get $20 off your first order. Then we talk about our 6-week challenge update. Justin might have lost. He might have done one thing. Screwed him up.
Yeah, right. It was
bad.
one little tiny hiccup.
Your cheese got him, bro. You knew the cheese would get him.
You know what? I was just trying to give you guys a little extended arm. Here's a little flag for you.
But Four Sigmatic's activated charcoal lemonade came to the rescue. Now, we are sponsored by Four Sigmatic. If you go to Four Sigmatic, FOURSIGMATIC.com/mindpump and enter the code mindpump, you will get a discount. Then we talk about Adam's contest progress. He's kicking ass. You should see his back. The love handles are disappearing. We talk about my second all-day workout update, California's proposed kids' beverage law, nanny state. We talked about the muscle fiber study and the selective attention test. And then we get into the questions. The first question was, what is the most accurate way to measure your BMR? This is how many calories you burn on a regular basis. So we teach you that in this part of this episode.
Yeah.
Then we talk about creatine. The next question is, what do we think about creatine? Is it the greatest supplement of all time, or is it crap? The next question was directed more at Adam. Katrina, his girlfriend, who you may have heard of, is training for Spartan races. What does her training look like, and how should someone train for obstacle course racing? And then finally, the last question, name the top 3 unattractive traits we find in women and why. People apparently want to know that. Also, I'd like to mention MAPS Performance, our athletic and functional training program, gets you lean and gets you moving like an athlete. 50% off all month long. Go to mindpumpmedia.com. Use the code GREEN50, GREEN 50, all one word. Get 50% off. Again, that's at mindpumpmedia.com. You know, there's nothing more enjoyable than the sound of a child's laughter. Unless, of course, you don't have children. Then it's creepy as fuck.
Yeah.
You don't want to hear that shit in your house.
Randomly in the middle of the night.
Yeah, then it's really scary. But if you have kids, it's nice. It's a nice...
My best friend had his this weekend, man. That's what I was doing.
Oh!
Yeah, both of them.
Is he the first one among your friends?
So they have... No.
There's the second one, right?
Yeah, now I'm the last man standing, so I officially win. I can now have a kid.
Was this the bet?
Yeah, of course.
You know who's going to not be winning?
You didn't make
when you're old and you have young kids and their kids are out of the house.
So now
they're going to laugh at you.
The beauty that I disagree with that. The beauty of that is that out of all of my friends, I'm by far the fittest and the healthiest.
Oh yeah, you're
so
good. So
even if they've got a 3-year, a 5-year, I'll take a 10, 18-year fucking head start on me. I'll still be in better shape.
That's true.
Your bones will be moving.
That's what's good.
You'll be a mobile 70-year-old.
That's what's different. Sure. That's what's different today than 20, 30 plus years ago is. The generation, and then even the generation coming up now, they're just more health conscious. So we're taking care of ourselves better. Yeah, we see. I know as an overgeneralization is the population is getting fatter and getting sicker, but people are more aware, and I definitely see. I mean, it's my neighborhood, dude. They
are more aware. In fact, studies show that millennials and younger eat more vegetables than their parents do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's starting to happen. The trend's starting to happen.
Being healthy is becoming cool.
Yeah,
it's becoming.
Well, they're growing up with better information available too.
You know what it is? More than that, it's that. Plus, it's like smoking. We talked about this in a past episode recently. It's like smoking, where you now can see several generations, and you can see the effects of poor eating.
Right.
So now kids growing up are like, okay, we know what's going on here. We need to backpedal a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And you're seeing now parents, because I have my kids coming up this week. They're going to be with me for a week, and I went to the grocery store to get snacks for them for school, because they have, they'll do recess.
Do they start today as well?
No, they've already started.
They already started last week?
Yeah, they already started.
Okay.
But I went shopping for them. So I'm in the kids section of snacks, and it used to be pure shit, like pure garbage, all the way up and down the aisles.
Lunchables.
Yeah, like
now,
Gushers.
Now it's still mostly
gummies.
Yeah, exactly. Now it's still mostly that. But now you see like 1/4 of the aisle is maybe not super healthy, but you could tell they're trying to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like organic and lower in sugar, and then you look at the back and like, okay, you guys are
gluten-ish.
Yeah, you guys are doing better. Things are doing a little bit better. So
right. No, I think so. So I think it's become well, it is. All the stats are pointing this direction too, that people are having kids later and later and later. Like, I mean, just our parents' generation, it was normal to have a kid like at 20 years old, where it's becoming more normal to have a kid in your 30s and beyond, So,
what's funny? Dude. What's funny too is for a while there, especially in the 60s and 70s, there was this huge scare that the world population would get so big that we would run out of resources and we wouldn't be able to feed ourselves. I think there was a book called The Population Bomb that was written back then that was like, it caused all this like freak out, like, oh my God. But what ends up happening, what's ended up happening, this is why you always got to be skeptical when you have experts come out and warn everybody about what's going on. We've gotten better at producing food. We've gotten way better at distributing food. So now we have more food than we did before, even though there's more people. And you know what happens to societies as they become more modern and wealthy? They have less kids. So the world's population is going to peak and then flatten out and then start to drop a little bit. Because like you'll see this, like America is one of the only, like, I guess, advanced nations that is actually producing more, that the population is actually growing at a rate that would sustain it. A lot of European countries are not. Like, I know in Italy, they actually are paying people to have kids.
Wow.
They're not having. Japan is negative population.
That's so weird to me, like that how that math works out. Like, how do they figure that out? Just because you've slowed down at that rate, and now that, like, it's not the whole country's not gonna die off.
The government will. So if you have...
What do you mean the government will?
So I'll explain why. So if you have government-provided services, what you're basically looking at...
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So
it's a Ponzi scheme.
That's the concern. It has nothing to do with, like, the race is going to die.
You're affecting my paycheck.
Yeah, it's not like all of a sudden Italians are all going to fall off the face of the earth and we won't have any more in about fucking...
No, it's that they're going to have to refigure shit out because let's say you have a huge population. Let's say the population of old people is bigger than the population
It's like the issue
young
that we had with Social Security, right? I mean, we had more old, sick people than enough people that we're putting into the pot. So that's what will happen.
It's you know what a Ponzi scheme is, right? A Ponzi scheme is when people collect money and then they'll guarantee you a return, but they're paying you based on the money they're getting from other people, and so it requires exponential growth. Well, if you have like systems that we're paying into, you need more people paying in than taking out, and when the population shrinks or more people are retiring than are working or whatever, there's an actual number and ratio you can figure out. Then you start to get fucked. Then you're screwed. So it's like Japan. I think in a relatively short period of time, their average the average age of the population is like over 40 or 50. I mean, it's like,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it's going to be old, and they're going to have to figure out like, how do we take care of all these old people?
China like up to these? Because I know for a while there, weren't they like limiting the amount of boys that were in the population?
Oh yeah, now they're starting to reverse on that policy because because
how do you limit just boys?
Not boys, they limit it to one birth.
Well, one birth, yeah.
Okay,
but the preference
that would be
the
stupid.
Preference was having a boy, and so that was like a big issue.
Unintended consequence of that policy was hey, only one child, so then Chinese parents were selectively having a boy, or if they had a girl they'd abort it or whatever.
Yeah.
So now you have a bit of a problem. But they're trying to change it because they see the same thing, that they need to keep growing their population. So it is interesting. But yeah, as we get wealthier and more successful, people have kids later and they have less kids. I don't think that's a bad thing. I really don't. I think it's probably a better thing, right? Anyway, speaking of unintended consequences, first off, I want to tell everybody how excited I am with our newest sponsor.
Dude, you're excited?
Oh, man.
So
excited. If you're an OG, okay, you remember. Hopefully, you remember these episodes. Where do you remember when we talked? It's like episode 30 or something. It was early on, way before we ever even had a sponsor. We talked about like, dude, we're never going to get any sponsors. No one's going to touch us with a 10-foot pole. And I made the comment,
like Trojan.
That's what I said.
Like
I made the
right?
comment about like Jack Daniels, Trojan, and like marijuana companies. Like we're going to be and then we started talking about marijuana and saying like, we're going to be the first podcast that's sponsored by like a marijuana company. How cool is that?
Yeah. I don't think anybody in the fitness industry is. No. Definitely not.
Nobody in the industry.
There's no podcast at all.
We are the first ones for them to do this. So we are the first podcast they have partnered with.
So we're partnering.
This has been a year in the making, by the way.
We've been talking and working on this, but and also thinking about how we could do this because it's a growing industry. We're all big proponents of the responsible use of cannabis. We know the medicinal benefits, the potential health benefits for a lot of people. We all obviously are fans of cannabis. And Ease is a company that is exploding in California. And what they do basically is, I mean, I don't know if I can say this, but I consider them almost like the Uber for cannabis.
Sure.
Because what you do is you order from them, they go to local dispensaries, they get what you have ordered, and then they deliver it to you, your business, your home, your work. And the deliveries, I've used it now 4 or 5 times, usually between 15 to 30 minutes.
Oh, it's fast.
Yeah, usually.
It's so fast.
Usually.
Yeah.
Now, here's what's cool about Ease. So we talk all the time about how, the government will create regulations and technology is just advancing faster than they can try to regulate. And so what's happened in California, because we were the first state to legalize medicinal marijuana. We were the first ones to do it. We weren't the first to legalize recreational, but we were the first to legalize medicinal. Then we went and we legalized it recreationally recently, but what California lawmakers have done, which I really can't stand because they do this behind closed doors, is they've applied so many regulations on the dispensaries that a majority of them had to shut their doors. And they're saying like, you can only have a facility in this type of an area, you have to grow your own cannabis, you have to produce your own whatever, essentially killing a majority of these dispensaries and making it difficult for people to find them and have access. So what does the market do? It produces a company like Ease where that's fine. There's a few dispensaries are hard to get to. A lot of your favorite dispensaries are gone because these regulations are crazy.
We'll do all the legwork.
We'll do the legwork.
Yeah.
We'll pick this up for you.
Brilliant.
Bring it to your house. As a result, now Ease is exploding, and they're doing really, really well.
And they have been. They were on our radar literally over a year ago, and we were going back and forth. And it's hard with podcasting because one, there's just not a lot of analytics. So when we reach out to companies to work with them, like specific ones that we want to work with, some of them that have never advertised on podcasts, they may be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on billboards and magazines and old school ways of advertising. And just some companies are afraid to dip into the water of messing with podcasting. And so we had a lot of that going back and forth. And I know Taylor worked his ass off to make this happen for everybody. And I'm really excited. And it's a fucking great deal for everybody. So it's a win all the way around. I'm excited to be sponsored by them. It's a great way that we can give back to our listeners like that are already utilizing cannabis. So I'm pumped, dude. It's by far my favorite sponsor.
I saw your eyes get super excited once this one landed.
Dude, I'm so excited about it. And I do think that this is the future of cannabis, how a lot of people are going to get their cannabis in the country. I really, really do because
it's discreet, man.
It's discreet.
It's nice. Yeah.
There's still a little bit of that stigma.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Even just going into the dispensary, it's still kind of like, that bit of, it still exists.
Exactly. And I think, because there's a long culture of it being illegal. And so I think a lot of adults and a lot of people would much prefer to go online, order it discreetly, pops up at your door. They show up. You show them your ID. You get the whole thing, whatever, and you're set.
Well,
So-
especially for trying it out, like it as far as like somebody who, especially like my wife or somebody like that, where it's just like always had that stigma, but like, well, maybe I want to try and see if it's something that I can like just, in the comfort of my home and give it a shot. And like, it's way less judgment that way.
Yeah, I couldn't believe how easy it was because when we first heard about him a year ago, I ordered it while we were here at work. And in 15 minutes, the dude showed up at the front, came in, and, you do the whole check my ID, whole type of thing. And it was like, this is silly. This is great.
No.
Yeah, it's fucking excellent.
No, I'm super excited.
So how was your guys' weekend? I know Justin completely ruined the contest. For
No.
himself, so, yeah.
I did. It's not okay.
What do you do?
No, I
Bro.
did. I had a hiccup.
Bro.
Okay, and I'm gonna be very honest.
Hold on. Before you go, I gotta tell Adam.
How did I not hear about
I gotta
this?
tell Adam what happened. So
Please.
he comes in the studio. We're gonna record.
This morning or what?
Right now. I gotta tell you from my perspective. And Adam's like, and Justin's like, oh man, he's like, I gotta go take a real quick shit. And I'm like, are you okay? Is your stomach? He's like, no, man. He's like, I gotta do a real quick one. He's like, I was messing around with my diet a little bit. And I'm like, oh, I said, you gotta be careful. You gotta be careful when you reintroduce carbs because your body's super sensitive. So I'm thinking this dude's adding a little bit of rice and you know what I mean? And his body's a little sensitive. And that's not what he did.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was doing. Okay. So
What did he do?
here,
dude?
I
What'd you
ate
do?
all day yesterday. I was like, I had a pound of tri-tip, and then like it came to dinner, and the kids were just. I guess this was all decided before I got home, and I met up with Courtney and the kids, and they were like, we were kind of, because today was when their first day of school, so they were like, they got to choose where we went to dinner, and
that's
so,
cool.
dude, it was like I had no options. We went to this pizza place. I was like, I'm so fucked.
Pizza guy, you?
Yeah, bro.
Bro, what are you thinking?
Bro, I had
Carnivore
two
diet
pieces.
for like 4 weeks.
I had
and
two
then
pieces
pizza?
of like the gluten-free. Like,
That's gonna save you.
Yeah, like that.
that was gonna help.
Oh my god, bro!
It tore me up.
Did it really?
Of course it did.
Yeah.
Pizza tears us up if we're just on a normal balanced diet, dude. Eating a carnivore diet for fucking 4
Bro,
weeks.
I'm laughing so hard because
tore me up.
I'm picturing Justin at that moment, and he's just like, you can feel him like sweating, like,
I was like,
fuck it.
I was pissed, but it was like, nah.
He's loving it while it's going down.
I can not really, dude. I knew it was gonna happen.
Was it
really?
immediate?
Yeah, it was like almost. And so, anyways, like we had some of that stuff at the studio, the Four Sigmatic, the lemonade.
With the charcoal,
activated charcoal.
Thank God.
In it.
I should just like start to eat
So
the whole.
I started taking some of that, trying to salvage it.
Did it help you a little bit?
I mean, I think it helped me a little bit,
Good,
but then the
good.
next day, like I think after processing it and everything, like
Shout out to our sponsor saving
So
us after
here's-
pizza.
I'm still rumbling and I took a shit, but it's not like violent. So I think it would have been a lot worse if I had not done it.
So here's my fear with people who go on a carnivore diet is this, because I've been
It's
thinking
exactly that.
I've been thinking. No, well, I'll tell you what my real fear is, because I know that too, right? If you go super restrictive, people have a tendency, and it's very difficult. I don't care who you are. It's very difficult to prevent yourself from doing that, where you jump in, full bore because you've been so restricted.
Yeah.
But here's my real fear. My real fear is that people avoid all these foods for so long that intolerances actually get worse.
Yeah.
And then when you go reintroduce them, if you do it all at once, something that gave you a normal.
Oh, that's 100% for
Well,
sure. I
yeah.
believe 100% that's
and
what happens.
and you know why I fear that? I'll tell you why. Because
I've experienced that multiple times with it. Anything that you like kind of bothered me before, once I eliminated it for a long period of time,
intensifies the hell out
Oh,
of it.
dude, and then you reintroduce it. It's
Well,
like-
that's the thing, because I was ramping up my rice intake, and so I was like building my carbs back. So I was like, well, maybe I'll be okay, even though it was like a totally different, experience. I thought, maybe this will be able to process, reasonably, but nah, so it's
damn, dude.
yeah, well, because what happens is, and you know why I'm saying this is
But I'll bounce
when you
back.
look at food
I'm not
intolerances.
worried.
When you look at food intolerances, it is an immune response. That's what happens to your body. You get an immune response. Now it's not a full allergy like anaphylactic shock,
Right.
but it's similar, right? You'll get inflammation. You'll get an elevated cortisol response. You might get gut issues. You might get skin issues or whatever. You're going to get this immune response. Well, when you look at the science right now that's coming out, and I know this because I have a nephew that has severe, like poor kid, right? Severe food allergies. He's allergic to like 5 different foods severely to the point where if he just gets cross-contamination. The kid has to walk around with an EpiPen. That's how bad it is.
Damn.
The research that they're doing, that they're coming out with now, is different than when he was young, when he was born. And what they're saying now is, what they're showing is that small amounts of exposure prevent these, in many kids, these severe reactions. There was a study that was done out of Israel, because they found that in Israel, I think it's Israel, I hope I'm getting the right country, but the peanut allergies there are far lower than any other developed nation. They couldn't figure it out. And then they looked and saw, oh, there's this popular peanut rice bar that parents give their babies as they grow up. Maybe that's what's going on. And then I remember all the clients that I've trained who would eat really clean and then all of a sudden have a bad food and have a crazy reaction. And I know myself how that happens. And so I think it's
like a foreign invader if you keep it out of your diet.
It's so and now here's why you want to avoid food intolerances. You want to give your body, your gut, time to heal. So if you have a bad gut, I'm not saying don't avoid these foods. Avoid them. Let your gut heal. Then if you're going to introduce them, introduce tiny amounts
I need
slowly
to
over
work
time.
my pizza in
completely, over a long. Yeah, dude. So I'm not joking. After this is over,
how many slices did you do, bro?
I did 2, dude.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because bro, I still have competition mind and all that. I was trying to be non-asshole dad, pizza. I didn't want to be I can't, you know what I mean? I still have to do life.
Damn, dude, that's a hard one too, because you mean going to get a burger or something like that?
That would have been way easier.
Oh,
right?
way better, way better. I mean, going for pizza. I mean, all that cheese, that fucking bread.
I got outvoted, man. I was just really, throwing every other option, Mexican, anything else, I would have been okay, dude.
I thought you saw my Insta story and just threw in the towel. I figured that's what
your
it was.
Insta story.
Yeah, I thought that's what it
Bro,
was.
you look good. That's a great transformation. Your love handles are gone now.
Yeah, the weight.
That's great, man.
It's funny is because
and your weight's the same. You've gained some serious muscle.
I woke up this morning 216. So
now you're down a little bit.
No, up. That's up more.
What were you at?
215.4.
Oh fuck! You're putting on muscle, bro. That's really good.
Yeah, so I know I'm putting. It's
going to be hard to judge this. You know what I mean? Yeah. Fat loss, muscle gain at the end of it.
Yeah, because I don't think I don't think my body fat percentage is gonna go as low as I would. I mean, obviously I would love for it to go all the way down, but I've been very careful of not to cut hard. I haven't done any cardio. I'm not doing anything.
I would be surprised, dude. If your body weight has gone up and the difference in your love handles is what those pictures show, I wouldn't be surprised if you lost a shit ton of fat.
Yeah. I mean, some of it too is this. I'm in the week of cutting right now, right? Mm-hmm. So, I came out the gates feeding the body, just like I tell everybody on the show, exactly how I handle a client is I give myself more food, more calories at the beginning. So part of the love handles, I think too, is I was probably holding more water. I mean, this is what everybody does, right? I mean, this is how I can create the illusion of really changing my body significantly just by manipulating water and shit like that. I for sure was probably totally waterlogged and I've got tons of carbs, tons of calories in me in those first 2 weeks. And then now you're starting to see me pull that out. So, and I think I'm really flat. I can feel my workouts are kind of weak right now. I'm not excited and I'm trying to mentally get through it. And this week I'll refeed. I don't know how many days yet. I haven't ran more than about a week or so of 3,000 plus calories. I've been hovering around 25 right now, and it's been keeping me pretty much the same weight. Mm-hmm. But I know I'm getting a nice exchange because I can see.
Well, that picture was dramatic. That looks really good, man.
It's coming.
Yeah,
dude.
that's really, really good.
It's coming.
That's excellent.
We'll see. We'll see. I've been dialed though. I mean, I have not. I haven't had a single hiccup. Everything that I've consumed was planned. Everything that
now let me ask you this, because what really gets me excited, I can see your health has improved tremendously. That's what gets me the most excited. It's nice that you look better and whatever, all that stuff, but your health, you look a lot different, and your energy is a lot different. That's the biggest thing that gets me excited. Well, what other changes have you noticed besides your body?
Well, I just touched on this a little bit. 2 episodes or a few episodes ago, where I sent that text message to Katrina, and there's no doubt and this is funny, right? So we're talking about her brother. I love her brother-in-law right now. He's a maniac. He works like we can work, and he has a job where the more hours he works, he keeps getting paid more overtime and stuff like that. So this dude will grind like 16-hour days and shit. And he's right in the middle of training for Spartan with Katrina, and he's just not obviously finding the motivation to get out there and train like he needs to be ready for this. This is the big one. They're doing the Beast. That's a fucking like a 7-hour thing, right? And so, and he just happens to be grinding at work at the same time right now. And so Katrina's like she's like getting on him, like trying to motivate him to get out there and do something. And she's like, I wish you would talk to him. I said, listen, you can't tell him. I said, how long did you live with me before you started to piece together and stop connecting exercise with just fat loss and muscle gain and make the connection to all the other parts of your life that it really enhances and improves?
Yeah.
And one of those being productivity and work. I don't know how many fucking times I've heard a client sit across from me and tell me that they don't have a lot of time or any time to work out. There's just no time for it. I do this.
That's the number one objection.
Right. I have kids. I've got 2 jobs. I've got this. I've got that. I'm working 16-hour day, whatever, right? And it never fails that when you start to make the time, when you start to make that time to exercise, whether it be 45 minutes to an hour, 2 to 4 times a week, it's amazing how much it bleeds into every other aspect of your life. My relationship and communication, my stress, my attitude, my energy levels, my productivity at work. So if I were to look back at, times where I've been off the wagon and not training and grinding, because I've done this many times whenever I've started a business up, where I go full into
just sacrifice yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I just fuck working out. That doesn't matter. All I'm going to do is bury myself into this business and do that, and it starts to compile after a while, and then you start to put on some weight, and you're like, oh, fuck, I need to get to the gym. But then you're like, shit, I'm working 7 days a week right now, 12 hours. There's no time for it. All I want to do as soon as I come home is lay on the couch. I'm exhausted from all day. But then when you actually discipline yourself to implement it in there, you start to realize that when you get home, you don't feel that way. When you get home, you're not just so drained and exhausted because you've trained and you've started to exercise.
You're more productive always.
Oh yeah, and then you start to get more out of your work, and then you come home and you get more out of your house. So that's, for me.
Yeah, because your energy is very, very different. Your health has improved tremendously. Your skin looks different. You're much sharper. Obviously less moody and all that other stuff. And all joking aside, I'm not saying you're. I'm just saying, especially considering what you went through, you did very well, very, very well. So I commend you on that. But you can see a drastic difference in your health, and that's the part that really makes me feel good and happy.
And I agree with you, and you push that side a lot, which I think it's important. Our audience hears that, but I also like to share the other side that's important too. That people listen when I look good and I feel better about myself.
Of course.
Like when I carry myself where
you're podcasting naked right now. You didn't do that last couple months ago.
Right.
Yeah. Justin appreciates that.
So it's a
always spread eagle, right? And my eyesight.
It's a compounding effect, right? So if all these things that we're talking about, the health goes up, the energy goes up, the productivity goes up. Oh, by the way, you get stronger. Oh, you're sleeping better. Oh, sex drive is up. There's so many things. That
it's a positive feedback loop. 100% positive feedback loop.
And we've been taught for so long to get caught up in the scale, which part of why I like doing these challenges, and this is how I started my Instagram, was I did the exact same thing, only I came from a little bit further away, was I wanted to show people, watch my weight stay the same, and I completely change my body composition. It does not.
Great example.
The scale does not fucking matter, and that's, I'm looking at all those other markers more than I'm looking at the scale.
That's a great example, especially for female clients who sometimes get so obsessed with the scale that they don't realize how different they can look sometimes just by changing their body composition and their weight staying the same.
Right.
I love when clients would see that. It really. It's very, very, very powerful.
What I'm most excited about.
My example is to show people you can go off a little and it's not going to affect shit.
Yeah. See,
watch me now.
Justin's upset because you're getting all the accolades right now.
Adam, you're so good. You're
First
so
4
great.
weeks, it was all about Justin. How great Justin looked. And then all of a sudden, I had to drop it last night. Just everybody DM'ing me like crazy.
Me. Yeah.
I said I figured the final week I'd just demoralize everybody.
Hey, I just
even tripping.
I just did the full day workout again, and I'm telling you guys right now, I am fucking on to something.
Oh yeah.
I am on to something. So I did this now. This is 2 weeks after the last one. So it's been 2 weeks.
Don't speak too soon. What happens when you body fat? You got fatter, dude.
Well, I don't. Hey, we'll see what happens. I'm pretty confident.
He's like, I'm on to something. Fuck,
man.
I went 17%.
Well, I'm basing it off.
Weird.
I'm basing it off performance. I know what I look like. I think my body's. I'm definitely getting leaner.
Yeah, but isn't it kind of obvious? I mean, if you're basing off performance, it's kind of obvious that you're going to see an improvement on that. I mean, the amount of volume that you're adding every week right
but
now
it's different. It's different. If I added that volume, because here's the thing with workouts, if you're training properly and hard, and if you know what you're doing, like I've been doing this for a very long time, and I've been right now training is one of my priorities because we're doing this contest, so I'm constantly pushing the most I could do. Right, I'm constantly dancing on the line between the best, the most stimulation I can send, and not doing too much to where I compromise my body's ability to recover. So I'm tapped out with volume. I know how much more I can do and how much less I can do, and I would not be able to add this volume any other way, which is what's tripping me out. I did it all in one day. It was all spread out. 2 weeks later, same perceived effort, 20 pounds added to my squat, 20 pounds added to my bench press, 40 pounds added to my row, same perceived effort, everything else was the same. That's a big ass difference. That's a tremendous difference. And like last time, the day after and the day after, I start to actually notice like, oh shit, I'm building more muscle. Like this morning I worked out and I went easy, but the weights I grabbed, I was going to thought they would feel harder than they did. And I'm like, am I stronger already?
Yeah.
It is really trippy. I'm getting a lot of messages from people who are kind of copying it, and I don't have it structured. So I'm still experimenting and I'm trying to put together what it means, but I'm getting people messaging me who are saying the same thing. I had a dude message me this morning who said he applied it, wanted to increase his overhead press because he was stuck at the same weight forever. He added 10 pounds to his PR from doing that one time.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. And then the productivity aspect of it, movement really does stimulate creativity, and it stimulates, we know exercise increases compounds that, improve neural connections and basically bathe your brain in beneficial things. We know that movement also stimulates parts of your brain and helps them communicate to each other. So this is why writers, when they have writer's block, what's one of the things that they typically recommend? Go for a walk
around,
outside or go for a jog or whatever.
Cigarettes.
That's why sometimes some of your best thoughts are during activity or a workout. And so again, this weekend I put together some more guides, and it's there. And I can do this. I can sit down sometimes and get really into it. But man, it's like a whole nother. This is like another hack. I love it.
I can't wait till we all do it because I'm not quite drinking the Kool-Aid yet. But when we all do it together,
that's
I think
good. You got to be skeptical because I want you to be when you do it, so you could give your honest opinion. And I never sell you. You're always skeptical, but that's okay because then you can experience.
Somebody
it and
has
give
to be here. You
exactly.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm excited though to do it. I mean, I'm skeptical with you, but I'm also very intrigued. Like if I just thought it was bullshit and stupid, I wouldn't even do it with you. But the fact that there's a lot of things that make a lot of sense of why this would be a cool thing to do. I mean, really the hardest thing is just, somebody to take the dedication and time to say, hey, I'm going to dedicate
it's
it.
Definitely a pain in the ass.
Right. So
it's full time. I did it all day.
I could see why it hasn't been sold as some, diet or training program and that tons of people are jumping on it because it's probably not realistic for the average person to do it. But hey,
not super convenient.
Right. It's not a convenient thing at all. But fuck convenience. I'm very interested in the potential benefits of building muscle and strength in that short a period of time and also not overtaxing the body so much because you're right. I know I can do a workout that just destroys me, but then you're fucking hindered for the next 3 or 4 days.
That's the thing. What's weird about it is because here's the other thing I did. So I was calculating everything out, and I'm getting closer and closer to really figuring out how the ideal way to apply this is. But I figured it out, right? It takes me roughly 25 to 30 minutes to do each of the workouts, right? So I'm doing 5 of them. So it's about 2.5 hours of working out. So 2.5 hours, 15 sets of, 3 sets times 15 sets of squats, 15 sets of bench press, and 15 sets of deadlift total, right? It's for the whole day. Now, would I be able to do those, or if I was to do all that same weight, all that same sets, and try and fit it in a 2.5 hour workout, I don't know if I would have, and I know how I would have felt had I done that. If I had done that in a 2.5 hour, just boom, one block, I would have been trashed. I would have been completely destroyed, and I would have felt like absolute garbage. Instead, the day after, I felt okay. I felt good. I can tell I worked out, but I don't feel like I did that much work. Today, I was able to work out again, and I'm a little sore, but it doesn't equate to how that would feel if I were to do it
in a single 2.5 hours.
Yeah, no way.
Yeah.
So it's pretty interesting. Anyway, I got an article I want to share with you guys. See what you guys' opinion is. It's funny that we just did an episode and we talked about obesity and how to lose fat, and we talked about kids and how overweight they're getting.
Are you talking about the one on the forum with that? Did you see that was the person? No,
I didn't. I did see that. This is different, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. I thought that's what you were going to bring up. Michael, was it Michael?
Well, he posted a picture of his niece and his dad with his
for 60 cents they could get that donut.
It's the size of a plate.
Bro, it's huge.
And that was her breakfast.
60 cents, and it's like this donut like this big.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Fucking huge, dude.
Yeah, and that little kid was going to eat the whole thing.
Oh.
Yeah, and he was, because in that episode we talked about, I wonder if it's going to be at some point considered child abuse. Yeah. I don't think there should ever be any
I don't think
any laws or whatever.
Of course not. I don't
but they're coming because especially if we start to push towards covering everybody's health care, then they'll make a very good case for regulating.
I tell you what, a lot of the regulation and the things that we've put in place that I think are bullshit, I don't think it's one of the worst. Because if they're, I'm with you on, government should definitely not get involved in anything that I'm doing to my own body. If I choose to put drugs into it, if I just choose to do anything to myself, I don't think government should get involved. But, I don't think government should get involved in anything, but if they were going to, I could see justifying parents that are, because in a sense, the kid doesn't know better. Kid's 3 years old, and if you're shoveling ice cream and candy and things down the kid's throat, they don't know. And shoveling it, I shouldn't say, because what a parent does. I was talking about, Katrina and I are having this discussion when we were hiking this weekend, and about parenting kids and. You see how it starts. It starts with, that you go over and you have your toddler sees grandma or whatever like that, and the whole family just can't wait to see what little, Joanna's face does when they put a scoop of ice cream in her mouth. Yeah. Like, oh, watch this. She loves this. Yeah. And they put it's like, yeah, no fucking shit, she loves that, because up to that point she's only had raw natural foods, and now you just gave her a bomb in her mouth of all those flavors, like 1,000 times
sprinkling
more.
Drugs in their mouth. Watch little Johnny. He loves getting high.
Eyes light up.
Well, when you think about probably what happens inside the brain, okay,
it's very similar.
Yes, when you talk about what happens inside the brain and their taste buds on their tongue for the first time, probably tasting ice cream, candy, or any of these types of overpowered sweets that aren't natural, that you didn't find in nature like that they've taken.
And the brain models itself off of this stuff.
Right. So if you give them that, I mean, I would love to see. Someone like us take some drugs and then do all the tests to see what goes on in our brain and what happens to a kid's at that age when the first time you introduce.
They've already done it. They've already shown it looks very similar on imaging. We don't know enough about the brain to see specific, but we can see that the imaging looks almost identical to what happens when you eat like a super highly palatable processed.
And I know I'm taking an extreme analogy by comparing it to Coke, and I know there's somebody that's rolling their eyes and be, oh God, I can't believe you're comparing cocaine to sugar or like that. But hey. It's fucking killing more people every year.
Oh, for sure.
It's
not even close.
It's killing way more people every year. So why the fuck can't I? Why? Because somebody decided to demonize all that stuff a long time ago, and so we think drugs are so bad, but sugar's okay.
Yeah.
Like I just.
Yeah. But so and here's the thing with that. Like I can see what you're saying. Where if they were to do anything, that might be a better thing. Here's why and I know you're not saying that you advocate for it. Here's why I would completely fight against it. We know what the government health recommendations were for the last 30 or 40 years. Were they at all accurate?
100% wrong.
So next thing you know, they're going to be like, here, eat this. It's good for your kids. It's sugar-free, milk. Or it's this,
a new formula
with their lobbies or whatever. So here's what they're doing in California. Good old California, nanny state of the country. There's a bill right now that it's gonna go across the governor's desk, and he's expected to sign it. So it's not in law yet, but I'm pretty sure he's gonna sign it. They're gonna make it illegal for restaurants to make anything other than milk or water be the default drink when they serve kids meals. So to clarify, when you buy a kid's meal at a restaurant, the kid's meal usually comes with, okay, what would you like to drink for that?
Right.
The law is gonna say that the restaurant default drinks have to be milk or water.
Wow.
Now that doesn't make it illegal for the parent to order a separate soda for their kid, but the restaurant cannot put that as part of the kid meal.
Well, the dairy lobbyists like this law.
They love that, of course. And I'm sure chocolate milk is on there.
Yeah.
So you're going to go to McDonald's, you get the kids meal, and now the kids meal options are only, milk or water, or you go to a restaurant, it's only.
Is milk that much better?
Well, they're going to make some arguments for it. I don't think the kind of milk that we serve is typically that much
That's
better.
what I'm saying. It's maybe 5 to 10 grams lower on sugar. You get a little bit of protein in there.
Yeah.
Well, especially like you said, chocolate milk. I guarantee that's going to be one of those little squeeze-ins.
But I don't like that. I don't like that they're doing that. Plus, really, you're going to make restaurants do that? Is that going to make a big deal? Because it's how the parents eat. That's what affects the kid.
I mean, and they're going to eat regardless of whatever, like, you're going to put in, like, well, we're going to order this anyway. Like, they can't, like, say no, right? Yeah. Or, like, get out of here. It's like they're going to order, like, whatever juice or soda or whatever they want anyways.
Yeah. I think it's hilarious that they're doing that. It's going to get worse, though, if we start to move towards policies where we're providing health care for people, like maybe a single payer or something like that, which a lot of people are pushing for. When that starts to happen, it's not a big step to go from there to, okay, now that we're all paying taxes to give everybody health care,
of course,
now we need to dictate what people can eat.
In the UK, didn't they do something similar where they regulated the consumption of sugar and I know, like, as far as like GMO laws and things like that, like that's been something that's been brought up multiple times. But I remember, like, I thought they rolled something out as far as like some kind of extra tax or something on sugar.
I'm not sure. I know some states in the U.S. have done like sugar taxes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, and there's a lot of unintended consequences of doing it. I think you should just educate people and let them make their own, kind of choices. I'm not super opposed to sometimes government education on certain things, although a lot of times that goes wrong too. But yeah, I don't like that, man. I don't like them telling us what we can and can't eat. That's kind of crazy.
It's kind of like the toothpaste, though, thing that you always talk about. Like, is it too late? You know what I'm saying? Are we already going one direction?
I'm trying to think of all the scenarios and how companies are going to get around that. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to think of what they can do to get around that. And maybe they'll say, oh, can we serve them soda if it's sugar-free? Mm-hmm. Maybe they'll get that passed. Because remember, the soda companies are very strong, and they have a lot of money too. So I could foresee that, being something we're like, okay, well maybe then we'll do a just sugar-free soda for kids, which now they're consuming those artificial sweeteners and all that stuff. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Another interesting article that I want to share with you guys. They did this huge study on twins recently, and it's the whole nature versus nurture debate, right? Like, how much of your health and fitness and all that stuff is dictated by your genes and how much of it is dictated by your lifestyle. And these studies are difficult to do on groups of people because there's so many factors that can get factored into that. And the only people you can really study where you can control for genetics is twins, because twins have identical genes. So those are considered like the gold standard of these kinds of studies. Like, if you want to see how something affects a person, the best thing you could possibly do is get a group of twins, have half of them not do it and have half of them do it, and then you see like what the real kind of effects are.
The most ideal way to do that is to have the twins like in totally different locations and different environments, right?
Yeah, or have them live in a laboratory where you control everything.
Or that, yeah.
So what they did is they did this one study where they took these two twins. One was, and this is relatively rare because many times twins are similar in their activities as well. But this one, they took these two twins, 52-year-old twins. One of them was like a fitness fanatic, and the other one was the opposite, like total sedentary, total like didn't eat right, none of that stuff.
Yeah.
Now they were the guy who didn't exercise and all that was 22 pounds heavier in body fat. Obviously, heart rate was different, blood sugar was different, cholesterol was different. So a lot of the effects you would expect from lack of activity. But here's the exciting thing. They did muscle biopsies on them. Now, for a long time, it's been debated that you're born with your muscle fiber type. So like, okay, you're born with a lot of fast twitch muscle fibers, or you're born with a lot of slow twitch muscle fibers. And that helps dictate if you're going to do well in explosive type sports or if you're going to do well in endurance type sports. Well, the active twin was a triathlete and endurance athlete. So pretty much every activity he did was revolving around endurance. And when they analyzed the two muscle biopsies, they found that the guy the twin that was the active one in endurance type activities was made up of 94% slow twitch muscle fibers. The other twin was 40% slow twitch muscle fibers.
Wow.
Huge difference.
That's massive, yeah.
So this shows that you can change how your muscle fibers start to express themselves quite a bit through training.
Well, now I think we see this a lot, anecdotally speaking, right? When you see like Ben Pekulski, dude. I look at that guy and I go, dude, he's trying to like lose muscle, and he's having a hard time because of so many years of weight training, and probably how much, like, guarantee that wouldn't be that way the first 3 years of his weight training. Like if he started weight training really consistently for a year or two and then said, hey, I'm going to try and lose everything I've gained, it wouldn't be that hard. But because he has, you got to think that a lot of, like we talked about, hyperplasia potentially happening with him, and you got to think that he's probably changed some of his fiber types, dude.
Oh, yeah. And that whole muscle memory thing, too. I mean, getting that big, even though you go off all the gear and you lose muscle, which he's finding challenging, which I find hilarious.
Yeah.
The guy's trying to get small, and he's literally bigger than I could ever get.
I don't know about that. He's really trying to get small, dude. At the end of the day, he might have changed up his training, but he's still wired to train. He's pretty motivated to keep training.
But I mean, you listen to his diet, the way he's eating and stuff like that. I mean, there's parts of that I can relate to, man. I struggled my whole life as a kid just to reach the 200-pound mark. Now, for me to get under 200 pounds would be just...
You'd have to like lay in bed and starve yourself.
Yeah, totally. And hope to God that muscle falls off along the place. Yeah, which is a good thing. I think it's awesome. I mean, that's what I worked really, really hard for so many years. I think it takes a long time to do that type of stuff. Like I wonder how old were these twins? Are they
52?
Oh yeah, so
and it's years. I'm sure years.
Years and years and years of one training and the other one not. Like, and you get
your body just models and molds itself based on your environment and activity, and then you start to create more, dare I say, permanent gains. This may be why, as you get older and you're working out, yes, you start to lose gains, but you keep them pretty well, and you really separate yourself from your peers. But so check this out. Here's the other half of this article. Is that there was another study that they did with 41 pairs of identical twins. So it's a decent-sized study. So that's 82 people, right? And they all had them fill out questionnaires. Now, here's the interesting thing. The twins self-reported getting identical amounts of physical activity, even though in the study, one twin, and this is why these twins were selected, one twin was fatter and had worse health. And when they actually had them wear accelerometers, they found that the lighter, leaner twins had spend 30% more time being moderately or vigorously active and took 21% more steps. So what does this tell you? Obviously, they're going to be leaner because they move more. But what does this tell you about the self-reporting? They were reporting identical amounts of activity. The accelerometer showed total different. And this is really a word of caution for people when they read studies. A lot of studies done on humans are questionnaires. Right. I'd say majority of them are on questionnaires. So when they say things like red meat connected to cancer or people move this much, it's people filling out questionnaires extremely inaccurate.
Yeah, right.
Extremely
inaccurate.
It
also speaks to what we were just talking about too earlier in this episode of when you start working out and getting in shape and stuff like that, how you can all of a sudden fit it into your lifestyle, and it doesn't seem like you're adding a bunch more exercise. It's just everything gets enhanced, and then therefore it doesn't seem as drastic. So if they're reporting the same type of exercise and feel that relative to them,
that's so true though. Like clients that you'll ask like specific questions about like how much they've been training or what amount of healthy foods they've been incorporating in their diet. It's like such. such a puffed up version of what, they're actually doing. And you see the same thing too with like eyewitness accounts. Like they can't hold that as weight, in the courtroom anymore because it's so fucking inaccurate. Like people's just perception of things is always like way different.
Oh, huge. What's that one very famous, you can actually watch it on YouTube. You pull up this video where, and I'm going to ruin it for you. So now you're going to see it, whatever. There's a video and it's a very classic experiment where there's like 7 or 8 people on the screen and they're passing, they're dribbling and passing a basketball to each other. And your job with this video is to count how many times the ball is being passed.
Walks in the background.
And you're just counting how many times it's being passed. Then at the end of the video, they say, okay, did you count how many times it was passed? Now, did you see the gorilla walk through the players? And you're like, I didn't see a fucking gorilla. Then you rewind the video, and it's not even hidden. He walks right through the screen.
Nobody sees it.
Oh,
and
shit, I've never seen this before.
You don't see it because it's called a selective attention test.
Yeah.
You don't see it because your brain is focused on counting how many times the basketball is being passed around. Yeah. And it's a classic test, and it's something like 80% of the people who do that won't see the gorilla.
Yeah.
Now that I've said this, you're going to see the gorilla.
Of course.
But it's a fascinating study to show how your brain works.
It reminds me of the thing. This is a visual one, but do you remember playing the game? Oh my God, he walks that slow, and people don't.
Yeah, and you don't see it if you
looks at the camera.
He does that, looks at the camera, beats his chest, and if you're not looking, look, if you're listening to this podcast, it's ruined for you because I've already mentioned it.
Right.
Find this video on YouTube and show your friend, and I guarantee you, 8 out of 10 of your friends will not see.
It's like don't you guys remember playing this as a kid, the bus driver thing? So I used to do this thing where you tell somebody like, all right, I'd talk to Justin, right? I'd be looking at him and say, hey, are you good at math? You set him up by asking him if he's good at math. Like, yeah, I'm pretty good at math. Okay. Totally. And then you tell him, okay, we're going to do this thing, see if you can keep track. And you start, the very first thing you say out of your mouth is, okay, you're the bus driver. You go to pick up 3 kids. 3 kids get on the bus. And then you take them through this whole thing. 3 kids get on. Oh, then you go to the next stop. 1 kid gets off. And then 7 kids get on. And he's sitting here and you can see him like, and then you
doing all the math.
Yeah, doing all the math. And they go, what color are the bus driver's eyes at the end? And he's like, fuck, I don't know. Yeah. But you tell him at the very beginning
that he was the bus driver.
That he's the bus driver, but he totally forgets all about that. Is completely focused on the math. And then at the end, you ask him what color the bus driver's eyes are, and like 90% of the people won't get it unless they've heard of that or know somebody's done it to them. Yeah. It's a similar test. It's just done. This is done visually.
Well, this one's just crazy because he walks right in front of you, and you don't.
So obvious.
That just goes to show you, it's your eyes don't see shit. It's your brain that sees it, and if it doesn't want you to perceive something, you won't.
You won't.
There's this other one where they have these 2 tiles, these 2 gray-looking tiles, and then they have what looks like to be a shadow over the top tile. And when you look at the 2, the top tile looks significantly darker. Or lighter. One of them looks.
Yeah, I think the bottom one's darker.
The bottom one looks significantly darker than the top one. Like, and it's off. You're like, oh yeah, that's for sure darker. But they're like, nope, it's the same color. Mm-hmm. And then when you go up there and you take your hands and cover the shadow and or get something.
So they also have it so it's like 2 different pieces of paper so you can like separate them, right? And they're the same color, but then you put them back together. Your eyes just immediately create this like shadow effect
to separate.
You perceive one as far darker, and it's the weirdest thing.
It doesn't make any sense.
You know it's happening. You're looking at it, and you're like, that.
Your brain just organizes it like that because of the patterns that you've seen, like with everything, with the light.
That's like the book that I was reading, How Emotions Are Made. Like it talks about, what happens is your brain is like this high-powered, super badass guessing machine. And so when something happens in front of you, it pulls from all of your experiences and gives you the best estimate of what just happened right in front of you. And like that's how perception works. And so if you've had an experience like seeing a car accident 7 times before, maybe I've never seen one, that's the first one, our perception of that car accident, we could be standing right next to each other, could be completely different because it's formulating in my brain while it's happening, and this is the first time my brain may be seeing this, where you might have all these other accidents and things to recall from, so your experience on it's going to be dramatically different, although we're both looking at the exact same thing. So it's crazy when you think about that.
I know, I love that shit. Oh, there it is. There it is. So you can see right there. See how the top one looks darker than the bottom one?
So it has an orange background on the top, and it has sort of a brown, textured.
They're exactly the same.
On the bottom.
Are they really?
They are exactly the same color.
Oh, that's now. Does it have anything to do with the ones in the background because it's making you pull from that?
That might be part of it, but they're the exact. And it's such a weird. It's such a what's it called? The corn sweet illusion. That's the name of it. The corn sweet illusion. There you go. So you can look it up. Yeah, I love that shit. I love knowing that my brain or whatever, that my reality is pretty much bullshit. It helps me.
yeah.
Well, it helps you keep an open mind to other ideas and other concepts and other people when you think you're so positive and so sure about things.
Right, yeah.
You know, you can say, okay, well.
Like, is that reality? Is that really what you're experiencing?
Yeah, it's better to be a little open-minded.
No, I think that's a great way to put that. I mean, it's your reality. That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
And your reality is real.
Yeah.
Today's Quah is brought to you by MAPS Anabolic. If you're looking to maximize your overall muscle and strength, MAPS Anabolic is the perfect place to start. With a full 30-day money-back guarantee, there is absolutely zero risk. So what are you waiting for? Go to mindpumpmedia.com and get started today.
It's the motherfucking Quah.
Eagle has landed.
Quah.
All right, our first question is from Built by Rye. What's the most accurate way to measure BMR? Is tracking your calories for a few weeks and watching your weight the best way? Is there an accurate equation?
I picked this question because of what we're going through right now, and I think that this was probably one of the most challenging times for me because everything's different, you know, without being on testosterone, my hormone levels being all over the place.
You basically had to test yourself like you would have your clients do.
Yeah, I mean, I had to start all over, like I really did. So, but now here's what's cool about science and tools, and this is where I do like a lot of these things, where I like the Fitbits and I like the body fat testers. All of them are fucked up. All of them you can manipulate by a ton of percent. All of them are not super accurate. They could be super accurate to somebody, and they could be totally off for another person. But what I like is they're good enough to give you a baseline to kind of start and go from. So, you know, if you go get like one of these tests, body fat tests, and most of them now, they kick off your BMR on there. Now, I don't take that BMR and say that's my BMR. Like I don't believe in it. I don't trust the machine enough. I know that it can be manipulated by so much in a single day that I don't use that as a hard number, but I do use it as a place to kind of start where if this is my BMR, I move X amount of steps per day. That's an X amount of calories more than I'm probably burning. So, for example, I think mine on that test thing says my BMR was like 23 or 2400 or something like that. So, you know, I figure, well, that's probably if I hit 25 to 3,000, that's probably going to keep my weight right around. And that's how I kind of started off with coming up with the number where I'd be, and then I've gone up and down and manipulated that. But I think getting a number first like that, and then here's the part that I think a lot of people just won't do, or they don't put the time in to get really honed in. And Katrina and I were talking about this last night, literally, because she's like, it's so crazy to me how fast you can manipulate your body. Yeah. And I said, well, because what I do is I said, everybody focuses on the cut. Everybody focuses on getting shredded, getting lean, a new challenge, diet, whatever like that. But I spend a majority of my time honing in on where homeostasis is. Justin kind of touched on this the other day. Yeah. I'm really good at that. And that's because I don't stress about seeing the scale move right away or seeing my body change a bunch. It's like I care more about figuring out right where my body wants to be and right where it's like balanced. And then I can start to manipulate and play with things. And it takes consistency of tracking for a little while before you can you can't just track for 3 or 4 days and be like, oh yeah, my BMR or my calorie maintenance is 3,200 calories. Like,
no, I just throw that away. That equation and all that, throw that away. In my opinion, it's worthless. What's worth something is going through like the week to 2 weeks of like really trying to maintain whatever weight you're currently at and your activity levels, and try and mirror that and see like, well, today I actually went up a few pounds. Okay, well, what happened? What was different? And, you know, like working your way through all that just to understand your body and see like, well, this really is the calorie amount that is maintenance for me. And so here's where I can manipulate just a little bit up, a little bit down, and then now I kind of have a better gauge of what to do more accurately.
There is a machine that will
Body Gym.
measure your BMR, but they're super expensive, and you'll find them at universities. I don't remember the name of them. But
there's one's a Body Gym.
is it okay? So aside from that, there's really nothing that's easy to access, or even anything I'd recommend to anybody other than what we're talking about. And here's the thing. First off, yes, you can manipulate your body very quickly, and that's a good thing. That means your body's healthy and it's adapting. The day your body stops adapting quickly is not a good day. That means you're probably getting ready to die pretty soon. So that's a good thing. But and here's the other thing. You could have two people who weigh the same muscle mass, same fat mass, both the same gender. One person's metabolism can be much faster than the other. We don't quite know why one person may have a faster metabolism. So it's not this direct transfer of you have this much muscle mass and you weigh this much, and if you gain this more muscle, you'll get this much faster metabolism. It's very, very, very complex, and we're still trying to figure it out, which is why really today the only accurate and I guess most accessible way to measure your BMR is exactly what we're talking about. Track your calories, track your activity. If your body weight stays the same over the course of about 2 weeks, congratulations, you're probably eating quite close to what your basal metabolic rate is, what you're burning on a daily basis with your normal activity and all that stuff. If you gain a little bit of weight, then you know that you're eating more than you're burning. And if you start to lose weight, you're burning less. That's really the only way to do it. I do not like you go online and you look up how to measure my BMR, and it's a generic formula.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you it's going to be off for everybody. It's always going to be off.
Yeah.
This is why when you see like calorie recommendations from like diet books and stuff like that, I'm always like, how the fuck are
so arbitrary?
Yeah, how are you giving people? I know at 200 pounds, I could get my metabolism to the point where I can maintain it at 2,000 calories, or I can maintain it at closer to 3,000 calories, depending on my activity level. If I'm lifting to build, if I've slowly reverse dieted, if my hormones are on point. Like all these, my sleep, all these things affect how your body utilizes calories.
I don't know. It just kind of cracks me up, like people that are very mathematical about everything. And it's great, like when it works out on paper. It just doesn't work like that, the human body. There's just too many moving parts. There's hormones. There's, different like variables that present themselves like day to day. And you can't factor that in. And so it's going to affect your outcome. It's not going to equal N, it's going to equal something else.
Yeah, and that's why, and this is also a reason why BMR is a good starting point, but then afterwards, like, whatever, because your BMR changes. So even if you are able to figure out your accurate, basal metabolic rate, is it going to be the same 3 weeks from now when you're either in a surplus or a deficit? Probably not.
It's forever changing. It's changing every day. I mean, that stuff is changing every day. So, and here's the thing. I'm a numbers guy. I track and I do all these things. But what I don't do is I don't get hung up on the actual number itself. It's like I use it as all these. Okay,
but you're cross-referencing it with body weight, with all that stuff.
Exactly. That's exactly how I use it. It's not like, oh, my Fitbit says this, so therefore I'm okay. Or, oh, it says I burn this many calories, therefore I could eat this now. Or, oh, it says I need to do this, so I need to increase this. It's like, no. It's like I'm paying attention to my steps. I know what a high day of stepping is for me. I know what a low day of stepping is. I know what right in the middle is. I'm paying attention to my calorie burn during my workouts. I use the tool because it measures all these things, right? So yesterday was a moderate to high step day for me, but I burned a lot of calories. Well, why? Well, because I ramped up my intensity in my workout, and I intentionally did that, right? So now I take that into consideration when I manipulate my calories. I go, okay, well, I didn't step as much as I normally step, but I had a way more intense lifting session, so I actually burned more calories that day stepping less because I increased my intensity. So then, again, now I'm readjusting. So I love to track all of these things to use them all as a tool for me to pull from and make
collecting data points.
Yeah, that's all it is. But and everybody always, I get this is probably one of the top DMs too that I get, is asking about like what Fitbit I use and what parts of it do I use, and is your calorie expenditure on there accurate? And it's like, I don't know, I don't care either. It's like what it is. It's consistent. It's consistent with what it reads. If I walk,
if it's wrong, it's consistently wrong. But it's a number that
exactly. That's exactly how I look at it. It could be off by 500. I don't give a shit. But what I know is that when I walk and do these things, it's consistent with that. It knows my stride now. It knows that, and so that's consistent. And it definitely it definitely picks up when I have a high. Like I definitely notice this. I can have a 10,000 step day. Okay, a normal workout, and my Fitbit will read that I burn 3,500 calories. Okay, 10,000 steps, a normal workout, 3,400 calories. Then I can have a 8,000 step day, so less active, but then in a very intense workout, and my Fitbit says I burn 3,800 calories. Mm-hmm. So what's great about it and what I love is that it does pick up that. It shows me like, oh, even though you weren't as active, you did burn more calories today because of the intensity that I applied. Sure. So now I can play with my lifting intensity too, based off of these things. Again, not sticking to the hard number, using it just as something that I can draw from.
Yeah, and that's just a way different way to approach it than taking your age, your weight, your like the activity. They give you numbers for like these specific activities, and it's like this preloaded formula. It's just not going to apply to you.
That's right. And the other thing to consider too is with your workouts, you may do a workout in a day and burn less calories. However, that workout may be sending a signal that's going to speed up your metabolism. So that's not even the entire picture. Like I could lift weights for an hour and do a really good resistance training routine, a really good workout. That's straight sets, looking to build muscle, build strength. And I could also do an hour of cardio. Now, I may measure with that hour of cardio higher calorie burn. And so somebody who just focuses on calories will say, oh, I'm going to just do the cardio because I'm burning 300 more calories a day. But what they don't realize is that the resistance training is telling my body to burn more calories through time, whereas the cardio may be doing the opposite, or maybe do nothing in that regard, or may usually doing the opposite, especially if I do, that's all I do, or I do too much of it. So there's a lot of information to take into account.
And on that note of cardio, this is the reason why I don't like to implement any cardio at the very beginning. Because it can throw off me trying to figure this out. Like if I was doing cardio in the middle of all this stuff, I would be like, oh shit, now was that calorie expenditure, that bump I just got, was that because of my intensity in my workout? Was that because I did 30 minutes of vigorous cardio afterwards? Fuck, I don't know which one it was. So I'm not sure if I want to feed myself because my body's going to be sending a signal to grow and build because I trained really hard, or is it because I burned a lot? So it just throws another variable in there. So I won't do cardio until this final week. So we were coming up on our final week. I have not done an ounce of cardio. Now I've walked,
either, man.
Yeah, I've done walks and I've done that and got my steps and my knee up, but I have not got on a treadmill with the intention of to ramp up some expenditure. Now I will, because this is the final week, I will implement it into my routine, because I also feel I'm dialed in on the calories where what my body's normally burning, what a high day, what a low day is. And so now what I can do is I'll have a day where I'll feed myself adequate calories and stuff. I'll refuel, get a good weight training routine in, and then I might have a low day where I start to get on some list cardio, or maybe do a little bit of HIIT after my workout, and then focus on burning fat more, and then go in and out of that until the end of this competition.
It's the final countdown.
Yeah.
Our next question is from Isaac Verhessen. What are your thoughts on creatine? Have you used it? Would you recommend it? What's the best way to use it?
Now, we've addressed this before, but we had like 3 questions today in the Quah that were related to creatine. That's why.
That's all right. I think it's a subject we need to touch on every once in a while, because we get new listeners all the time who maybe don't go back and listen to all of our old episodes. And this is a good subject. Creatine, of all of the ergogenic aids, of all the supplements that you can take that purport to improve athletic performance, strength, build muscle, burn body fat, basically all supplements, okay, that are not food, okay, because food is obviously the best supplement if you were to consider it that. Of all the supplements you could possibly take right now, creatine is head and shoulders above the rest. There is no competition. There's nothing you can take that's not hormonal that compares to creatine in terms of all of the beneficial effects. Creatine builds muscle. So it speeds up the rate of building muscle, improves recovery. Creatine increases strength. It also now has been shown to burn body fat, possibly through secondary means. It has heart health benefits, brain health benefits. Doctors now are using them in neurological treatments and studies. So people with Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and other types of neurological disorders are benefiting from taking creatine. So creatine is just wide-ranging in terms of its benefits, and the side effects and negative effects of taking creatine are almost zero. It's one of the most studied supplements. There's probably 1,000 peer-reviewed articles out there, studies on creatine, and it's extremely, extremely safe when you're a healthy individual. It may increase a little bit of testosterone production in the body. That may be one of the negatives, but it's not anything significant. Although that's a positive for a lot of people. And now, why? People ask, well, why is creatine so awesome? Why is it so great for all these different things?
It replenishes your ATP and ADP at a faster rate.
And ATP is the fuel of the cell,
right,
of all cells. Like that's the fuel that your body needs to operate. And when you have when you increase your amount, and creatine can be found, by the way, naturally. So you get creatine in animal meat, so chicken, beef, fish. Red meat has the highest concentration. Yeah. Anytime you eat muscle, you're going to eat some creatine, right? Because that's where a lot of it's stored. But your body takes creatine and it uses it to synthesize ATP. And apparently, when creatine was first introduced in the market, I remember when it was first introduced. It was the early 90s. And I was young, right? So I was, this is when I first really started working out. And I remember creatine was real expensive. And I think it was EAS was one of the first companies to really sell creatine. That's what made them big. They had Phosphagen and Phosphagain and all these different things.
Yeah.
And I remember having taken supplements as a kid and nothing really worked. And then I bought Phosphagain, which was a protein powder that had creatine in it. I remember taking it, and a week later, I had gained like 4 pounds, and I was stronger, and it was like blew my mind. And that actually was a bad thing, because then I thought, oh, cool, supplements work really well. It was the only supplement I ever did anything
that's
like
funny.
that.
It was the only supplement that worked that I had experience with. Well, besides, I would combo that with a whey protein shake, and kind of like do everything at once. But man, it was significant, like what you would feel in your workout. You'd actually feel that, like last rep or 2 reps, you could feel the strength.
Well, I used to give this is how I used to give the analogy to clients so they kind of understood like what was going on, because obviously talking about ATP and ADP and stuff like that can kind of lose the average person. I'd say, look, think of it like this.
Explain the Krebs cycle, please.
Yeah, right. So let's think of it like this, and this is what I'd say to them: is imagine all things equal. We're bench pressing, same weight, same everything, same rest periods, all that the same. You get onto the bench press, and we have no creatine in us. You just are normal, right? And you do your bench press set, and let's just say your body starts off with 100 energy molecules. Okay, it has 100 of them. You do a bench press, and the body uses up 25 of those to do that set of bench press. Then you sit down and you rest between your next set, and then your body starts to replenish those. And when it replenishes it, you get back under for your second set, and now the body replenished like 20 of those 25. And so now you have 5 less than before. When you're on creatine, the body replenishes 27 or 28 of those molecules. And so that keeps carrying over into each exercise. So it's replenishing that at a faster rate. Well, if you have more energy to go into each set, even if it's just a little bit, it's that much more that you can push. And that's why people feel the strength and they feel the gain.
Also increases. So here's the interesting thing about ATP and storing this kind of energy. We do have a limit in terms of how much we can store, just like we have a limit with glycogen and all these other things. However, most of us are not at that limit, even if you eat meat on a regular basis. Yeah. When you throw creatine, they call it supersaturation. When you take creatine, you'll find that your body's capability to store this energy is actually much higher than what you're living at. So really, with that comparison that you're giving, Adam, it's another step forward. It's even there's even more going on where you had 100 energy molecules. You take creatine, now you have 115 to begin with. So you actually have more to begin with anyway. On top of that, creatine consuming creatine causes muscle cells to hold more water. Now, this isn't bloat. Okay, bloat is outside of the muscle. That's when you're smooth or whatever. This is actually fluid within your muscles, and this is
the cell volumizer. Is that the term?
That's
for
where
it?
they came up with that. Yeah, and that's a good thing. I mean, your muscles are up to 70% of non-muscle fiber structures. So now your muscles hold more fluid. The more hydrated, this cell swelling effect actually signals the body to build muscle as well. So you see that things like muscle protein synthesis accelerate, which is basically a way to measure how your body builds muscle. So there's all these really interesting, good things that happen when you supplement with creatine.
Do you remember how I used to when I was competing, how I used to use creatine? Do you guys remember me talking about that early on in the show? So I put that together, like, I don't know if it was my second show or what, but after the first show, I remember how deflating and demoralizing it was to go into a cut for 6 weeks and be flat most of the time and just look at myself in the mirror, knowing that I'm getting in better shape, but looking at it and being like, oh my God, I don't feel my shirts out. My pumps aren't awesome because I'm deprived of calories. You know, you have less carbohydrates in you. Your body is not fueled up. Of course, the muscle bellies are not filled all the way up. So like a hack that I would do is I would take creatine, and I would only really do it during my cut. I'm on anabolic, so who gives a shit when I'm trying to build muscle? Nothing's going to be surpass that. So I'm not really worried about creatine during the bulk side of my cycle. But when I'm going into a cut for a show, I would actually take creatine with that theory in place of, oh, okay, my body will now hold on to some more water in the muscle bellies and give me this fuller look when I'm exercising. And it helped the mental side for me more than anything else.
Plus you look better.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it would fill me out and I would look better while I'm lifting. And so it would help me when I'm in that depleted state. I used to share that with all my competitor buddies that, hey, I don't know how often you use creatine, because most of these guys, everyone's running gear. So no one's talking about creatine. Like, creatine will never compare to Test E or to Sessanon or something like that. So most guys are talking about that. But I found creatine to be very beneficial for me, even with all that stuff when I was cutting, to help volumize the cells and keep water held inside the muscle bellies.
Vegetarians and vegans would probably benefit the most to supplement creatine. But now, do vegans actually have an issue with that because it's usually derived from, meat?
No, your body can synthesize. It synthesizes its own, ATP from 2 amino acids. Can't remember what they are. So if they're getting adequate, protein, their body will be synthesizing. However, you are absolutely right. When they've done studies on the cognitive boosting effects of creatine, consistently in vegans, when they take creatine, their IQ goes up because they're actually thinking sharper. So if you're a vegan, you for sure should supplement with creatine. I think it's also pointing to the fact that a vegan diet may not be ideal for everybody, because they're the only group that shows a significant, measurable cognitive boost, aside from people with neurological disorders, from supplementing with creatine. Now, that all being said, creatine isn't for everybody. There is a small percentage of people that are known as non-responders, where they take creatine, get no effect from it, or some people get gastrointestinal distress. They'll take creatine, they'll get bloating and diarrhea. In those two cases, don't take creatine.
Stop doing it.
Yeah, just because we're saying how awesome it is, if it's affecting your body negatively or you're not getting any effects, you're better off than not taking it. The other side of this is people I know are going to follow up and be like, well, which kind of creatine should I take?
Oh, I want the grape flavor.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So creatine's, like I said, it's been studied forever. The form of creatine that has been studied in something like 95% of all the studies is good old-fashioned.
The monohydrate?
Yeah, creatine monohydrate, just regular old creatine monohydrate. Now, and this is what supplement companies do, because creatine was such a blockbuster, it's like the first big blockbuster supplement, right? Because it actually worked for once. It's doing something. So it exploded onto the scene. EAS, had kind of cornered the market, and they used to sell, I remember this, no joke, this is back in 1994 maybe, they would sell a 300-gram bottle of creatine, which isn't that much. 300 grams is not going to, especially if you take 5 grams a day or whatever, they would sell it for like $50, $60. I could buy 1,000 grams now of creatine for $20, right? So they used to sell it for real expensive. And then supplement companies, as everybody's starting to get in their hands on creatine, it became well, shit, everybody's selling the same creatine now. How am I going to separate myself?
Right.
So they come out with different versions.
Time-released ones. Or
Like creatine citrate or, different forms of creatine. This one's buffered. Crealkanin is buffered, or this one's got, a different molecule attached to it, so it's better for you. When they've done studies to compare creatine monohydrate to these other forms of creatine, it's still superior. Not only is it the same in most cases, but it's actually superior in a lot of cases where you actually give your body more creatine. And the best part is pure creatine monohydrate is cheap now.
Which is different than what the guy at the supplement shop will probably tell you, because he's being told whatever he was sold to tell you based off some recent study they did.
You want pure creatine monohydrate powder. You don't want any fillers. You don't want any flavor. Add it to your protein shake. It's inexpensive. There's a lot of reputable brands now. Crea Pure is a company that's a mass producer of creatine, and they have a lot of standards in terms of the purity of their creatine. So you'll see a lot of producers will carry that type of creatine. And that's pretty much it, I guess.
Next question is from Catgirl25. How is Katrina training for Spartan? I'm in the Ultra Worlds in Iceland this December, having done my trifecta and the endurance series, including Ultra Beast last year. I've been training seriously, consistently for about 3 years, by which I mean one big goal event a year. For example, marathon, trifecta, the Ultra Beast, something 12-hour. My plan is currently 2 interval runs, alternating 1 long run or obstacle race session a week, plus 1 HIIT spin class, and I'm following MAPS Anabolic 2 days a week to rebuild base strength. 1 full rest day and 1 yoga recovery run per day. It feels simultaneously like too much and not enough. Unsure anything will be enough for a 24-hour, 50-mile Spartan. Basically, I'm terrified. I'm approaching it wrong.
This is a good question.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted Doug to read all of it, because how Katrina is training and everything she's got going on are just polar opposites. Like, I mean, Katrina is frustrated.
She's just training for Spartan.
Yeah, Katrina's just training for Spartan, and she's going to hit the Ultra Beast, which is the peak of what she'll do, which is like a 5 to 7 hour race. This girl is talking about doing a 24-hour one in Iceland, which is crazy, and you're doing a big race, at least one a year. And if you said the trifecta, that means you did 2 or 3 races minimum a year too. And then in addition to that, you're also trying to do anabolic. Well, here's the thing, and this is like I told Katrina when she was getting ready for this, is at the end of the day, something has to give. Something has to give. You are not going to build a strong, muscular-looking physique and then be a great endurance runner. Can you have a little bit of both? Sure, you can have a little bit. Something's going to give or they're both going to give a little bit, and you have to be okay with that. Now, personally, me, and I'm curious to hear what the boys think, but right away when I hear what you're doing, I can't quite put my finger on the spin and the HIIT where that has a lot of value. I think I would drop that immediately. If we're trying to be as big and strong or as muscular as we can while also having the endurance in there, a spin class and the HIIT training, I don't know if I would do that in addition to your runs every week for Spartan and the strength training.
Yeah, I would probably keep it most similar to what you're actually going to be doing. So running, it has a lot of weight. So that's something that you're going to literally be doing alongside, the pulling, the climbing, the functional, aspects of the actual course. But yeah, as much as you can mimic that with your endurance, the better. But as far as like Adam's saying, it's a compromise. So you already have to understand that you have 2 different pursuits that we're trying to sort of blend in the middle. So you're not going to be the most optimal strength wise, the most optimal endurance wise, but you're going to be somewhere there in the middle, whereas we're going to try and get to.
I think it's really important to communicate this when you're looking at obstacle course races. And you're looking at the best, or people who are in the upper echelon are really, really good.
Yeah, look what they look like.
Well, first off, yes, everybody's fit. That's obvious. Everybody's going to be pretty fit. But what separates the really good ones and just the regular good ones is that they're very efficient, okay? Their technique is excellent. When you're doing a Spartan race or obstacle course racing, you're not just running. You're doing a lot of different obstacles. And we went to one, and I watched, and I could see clearly how efficient the people who were good at the events, whether it's swinging from something or climbing a wall or whatever, versus everybody else who was also very, very fit, who was very inefficient. You could take somebody who's, I tell you what, you could take the top level Tour de France, bicyclist, and you can throw him in the water and have him swim, and he'll tire out much faster than somebody who swims all the time, who might not even be at an elite level, who might just be somebody who's at the top state level or something like that, because they're so efficient at swimming. So I'd say if I were training somebody in this, I would say, look, you definitely want to be fit. Like let's not forget that you want to be fit, but what you should really be focusing on is your skill, how good you are at each of those events. Practice those as much as possible, but don't practice them to beat yourself up. Practice them to get good at them. So what I mean by that is you're going to still work out. You're still going to get, you're still going to do the hard stuff. So don't stop that. But when you go practice these obstacles, don't go out to do them to fatigue, to get tired. Every once in a while, it's okay to do that. But a lot of the time, you should go out there to get really fucking good at getting over that wall with as little energy as possible and as few steps as possible. To be able to swing from things with as little energy as possible and as good of technique as possible. To be able to pick up whatever you're going to carry and run with it with the best technique and get yourself as good as possible, because that efficiency matters a lot when you're doing stuff like this.
So the things that now that we addressed kind of I'll tell you some of the things that Katrina is doing, because Katrina, I mean, she was really frustrated last week because she lost a little bit of muscle, and for her, she really is flirting with that. She doesn't care to be first place at Spartan. She has her brother who she's going to be waiting for half the time anyways. She just wants to be able to complete it and not die doing it. So, so we care a little bit more about strength training. So she's lifting, 3 times a week pretty consistently, following like a MAPS anabolic / kind of MAPS split type of a routine is what she's doing. And then she runs 2 times to 3 times a week, depending on how that works with her lifting. Like if it ends up being a pretty heavy lifting week, then we might taper down on the running that week. If it was lighter on that, then she runs a little bit more to kind of listen to her body. And then I have her, the way she runs is the runs I have her, like Spartan isn't a 10-mile straight run. They break it up in blocks of and each one's different. Like, and I don't remember what the beast was, and Katrina knows because she's been told from me, like, whatever those markers are at, run for that distance. So, she only does these little 1 mile intervals, like, because you're never going to run for longer than 1 mile straight. So you shouldn't, why go for a 5 mile run? It doesn't make sense to go for a 5 mile run if you're going to, so she'll run for a mile and then she'll do body weight type stuff. Or in the gym, like the way we've modified MAPS anabolic and MAPS split is I have her doing a lot of grip strength, a lot of hangs, pull-ups, a lot of rowing stuff, because they have a lot of row type exercises. They have a lot of body weight, holding your body weight up. So I have her hang on a bar for as long as she can. So she'll grab a hold of the pull-up bar and hang, and we time and see how long she's improving on that. So she does some, exercises like that. Grip strength. So I ever do farmer walks with heavy kettlebells. So these are all things that I think will benefit what she's doing in the Spartan race. Meanwhile, also still kind of strength training.
Is she doing smart? Yeah, this is actually where I do see some benefit in circuit training. I mean, where you're actually going to go and perform certain lifts that are strength based, but in between, you're going to have a little bit of that endurance component to it.
Is she doing like a lot of mobility and correctional type stuff too? Because I could see at this level of training, probably one of the biggest hurdles for people is like injury or.
Well, I heard what this girl was doing. She mentioned that she's doing the day of yoga one day, and I forget what she said the other day, or she said mobility or what. But Katrina, so I teach a mobility class once a week that Katrina obviously takes that, and then she knows she has all of her priming exercises that she's known to do because so she does that before every run and before every gym. So she's really good about keeping herself that way. And then she has me to communicate with if she overdoes something, and I can tell her how to critique. But she's pretty dialed in with that. And to Justin's note, this is part of why we went to Campbell the other day, because Campbell, it's really cool. They have, I forget the name of that, the Los Gatos Creek Trail run area or whatever that goes on forever. Along the way, they have a balance beam, they have pull-up bars, they have rings, they have dip bars. So, and it's kind of cool because it is broken up almost in like how a Spartan race is. So I think it's really neat. So she'll run from one marker, do a couple pull-ups on the thing or dips and then run to the next marker.
That's awesome.
And so to your point of like the circuit training, that this is where, and we did that when I came in. I told you guys earlier in the podcast that I picked up the intensity wall. I put together like a little circuit for us. I hadn't done a circuit training like that in a long time. And I wanted to increase the intensity in my lifting session that day, burn more calories. So I did, and I was with her. So we did something that I thought would kind of benefit both of us. So, I mean, that's how she's training right now. Now, if she was wanting to be just a Spartan racer, like we would be doing a lot of that, of just that, getting really, really good at building her endurance and her tank and literally only doing the moves that are going to support that. She wouldn't be doing a lot of bench pressing and shit like that. That ain't going to really benefit her. She's not going to be doing a lot of tricep extension exercise, like shit like that. She'd be doing all these movements that would benefit the Spartan race. But because she's trying to, balance between staying athletic looking, and I'm very, 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 very blunt with her too. So I tell her like, she looks great right now, but her body is completely changed, and it's completely changed to look like a runner right now. I mean, I think she's leaner right now, but I think she looked better just 6-7 months ago before she started doing, or whatever it was when she started doing the Spartan race, because she was purely just bodybuilding, where she was building her muscles to look a certain way, and so she's
a totally different pursuit.
Oh yeah, her body type is changing right now. You can tell that she's lost a little of her butt. She's definitely leaned out in her arms. She doesn't have as pronounced shoulders, and so her shape is changing right now. Still looks incredible. Still looks in great shape and everything, but her body is now adapting to be a better runner than it is a better lifter, and you can see that.
That's what the body does.
Yep.
Next question is from Colombian Carrie. To all three of you, name top 3 unattractive traits you find in a woman and why.
Oh, man. Adam,
What is this, some kind of sabotage?
Adam question. Yeah. Good job.
Well, I figured you guys aren't dating women that have 3 unattractive traits, right?
Right,
So the
that's
ones the ones that you have found in the past. I mean, it'll probably take a minute for us. We'll go around. I don't know if I have all 3 off the top of my head.
Dude, I can
just
name
being
a couple.
super, super insecure.
Well,
all
that's-
the
that's
time.
a- that's
Well,
what-
that's kind of obvious.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to name 3 unattractive traits in people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I think that's
It
just
doesn't matter, yeah,
I don't
either
like
or,
I don't
right?
like anybody who
Yeah.
I have a tough. Not I don't like. I find anybody unattractive who's super, really, really low confidence or insecure. It just makes people act in a particular
Well,
way.
I think it's easy too for us to say this instead of saying that unattractive about women. What I think are 3 of the most attractive things for me for a woman, which the opposite would be true, right? So for example, self-awareness is one of the most attractive qualities about Katrina. Like that's definitely number 1. So obviously one of the most unattractive things I could find about someone is someone who is very not self-aware. So if you're not self-aware, like that's a major pet peeve and very unattractive quality for me to be dating you.
I remember a while ago I trained a young lady who competed in pageants. Beauty pageants. So it's not bikini or whatever. It's an actual like Miss America type stuff, right?
Right.
And I got into that world for a second there. And one thing that really was so unattractive about a lot of the people who were in that space were these girls, when they would communicate to you, and this was shocking to me. I trained one of the girls, right? And she actually won one of the competitions. I'm not going to say which one because I don't want to call her out. But she was a very intelligent young lady, very smart, very sharp or whatever. But then when she would get around the people in that space or when I'd hear her talk to other men, she would raise her voice a little bit and act stupid. Like, oh, what? I don't know what's going on. And she would do this thing. And I noticed this happens with a lot of women. Now, guys do the opposite where they try to act smart and try to act whatever.
Right.
And I think it's because, and when you look at this from a behavioral standpoint, psychologists have said for a long time that when women pick a mate, they tend to want to pick someone who's at the same level or a little higher than them, and men tend to pick a mate who's on the same level or a little lower than them. That's why they say men have a fragile ego. Like if a woman shows that she's maybe smarter or stronger, a lot of guys get offended. And so I think sometimes women make themselves seem dumber to try and do that, and I can't stand that. I don't like when people. First of all, I don't like people who are dumb anyway. Yeah. But if you're going to make yourself sound dumber, that to me is a travesty.
Oh, that's a big one for me, especially when the voice changes and it's like this cartoony kind of like character from Disneyland or something. You're just like, no,
Oh my God.
I was like,
Can't stand that.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
That's too much.
Which
for me. I can't handle it.
Which the opposite of that would be confidence, right?
Well, intelligence.
Yeah.
I love intelligence. It's such an attract. It's one of the first things that got.
Yeah,
me
but
so
you could be
attracted
really
to
intelligent, but acting like the ditz, like you just said. So
I know.
confidence is
It's part of it.
right. Confidence is definitely, and that would go for another one for me. So I think self-awareness, confidence, and then probably a third thing that's so important to me. And so I'm saying the things that are important to me because I think the most unattractive part is the opposite of that, right?
Sure.
So confidence, if you're not confident at all, insecure, I think that's a major one. And then also self-care. And that's something that has changed as I've gotten older. Like I didn't realize how important that would be for me as I aged. And I'm extremely blessed to have a partner that is so motivated for self-care. And on many levels, when I say self-care too, like so her desire to grow, her desire to improve herself, not just mentally, but also physically, it far outweighs what I would ever want for her. So that is very, very attracted to me. And it's very unattractive when you're with a partner who doesn't care about growth and doesn't care about taking care of themselves. Yeah. And it's very motivating when you have a partner who is equal in that department or potentially even more so, because that's what's neat about us is, of course, I have my times where I don't feel like growing or I don't feel like putting the work in or doing what I need to do. But when I have a partner who cares so much about taking care of herself in those areas, I don't want to get left behind.
You want a grower.
Yeah.
Not a shower.
Yeah.
No, it's true.
On the opposite of that, though, like as far as like I am so much more attracted to like a self-depreciating, like humorous person.
Sense of humor.
Than I am somebody that's like they always have their shit together, and then when something goes wrong, it's like they lose it. You know, I just like you have to be able to find humor and comedy in a lot of like really fucking like life in general. Like there's going to be stressful situation. Yeah, you got to roll with it. You can't be like that fragile.
Yeah, consistent.
I absolutely agree. I mean, intelligence was a big one for me because I like conversation. But there's another part to that, and this may be a personal one, but I want to be with a woman who is going to challenge me, or at least not be afraid to challenge me, who's going to sit there and question things. And I remember when I first met, when I first had good conversations with Jessica way before we started dating, we started discussing nutrition, and she was questioning me on things, and she was throwing science and facts at me. And I remember at the end of the conversation, I looked at her and I was like, wow, you're really opinionated. And she got offended at first. I said, no. I do not mean that in a negative way. I mean, I love the fact that we're able to have this discussion and that you're challenging me and you're not afraid to do so. And that may be a confidence thing. I really, really enjoy that. Here's an unattractive thing. I mean, I don't know if I can. This is also super unattractive. Is controlling people. This not just women. This can be men as well. I think maybe more so men. But I really don't like people who try to control you, who try to control what you do, what you say, who you're talking to. And that may be a confidence thing or a lack of confidence, right?
It really is. I really feel like that being confident or a lack of confidence as far as being an ugly trait, like an insecure woman is a huge turnoff for me.
Yeah, because you see that in many forms, right? You see that like I have to post all these half-naked pictures on Instagram because I need the attention of it and all that kind of shit. It just bleeds through as insecure.
No, 100%. So I think insecurity is another one. I mean, those are my big three for me that I think I look for in a woman, and that's probably changed as I've gotten older too.
Of course, it has, because as you become more secure and confident yourself. I mean, here's the deal. I'm trying to think back. Maybe not so much myself, because I've always kind of valued that. But, I don't know. I guess I could say this. Would I have been intimidated by a hyper-intelligent, hyper-successful woman at the age of 20? More so than now. Now, if I meet a woman who's fucking super successful, super intelligent, because I'm more secure with myself, now I'm going to be attracted to it. Whereas, and I think that's why your taste or your understandings change, because you become more, yourself more, you become more secure more. And as you start to do that, you know what you really, really like rather than what your ego's afraid of or whatever. Here's another one that's a little personal. This one's personal for me, is when I hear a woman say, when a woman comes across as not empathetic or not liking family or children, that can be a turnoff for me. And it has nothing to do with, stereotypical gender roles. It's because I love those things so much that, and you guys have seen me do this, we'll meet people who kind of come across as sometimes a little dickish, but then we'll see them with their kids and I see that they're great parents. Immediately, what do I say afterwards?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love that person.
Yeah.
Look how great they are with kids. Look how and that's just because I value that so much. And that's more of a personal one for me, I would say. So check this out. If you go to mindpumpfree.com, you can get any one of our 10 guides for free. We have a fat loss guide, a how to do HIIT training guide properly. We have a leg training guide, calf training guide. I mean, there's a lot of guides there. Very, very valuable. All of them. You can get all of them for absolutely free. Again, it's mindpumpfree.com.
Thank you for listening to Mind Pump. If your goal is to build and shape your body, dramatically improve your health and energy, and maximize your overall performance, check out our discounted RGB Super Bundle at mindpumpmedia.com. The RGB Super Bundle includes MAPS Anabolic, MAPS Performance, and MAPS Aesthetic. 9 months of phased expert exercise programming designed by Sal, Adam, and Justin to systematically transform the way your body looks, feels, and performs. With detailed workout blueprints and over 200 videos, the RGB Super Bundle is like having Sal, Adam, and Justin as your own personal trainers, but at a fraction of the price. The RGB Super Bundle has a full 30-day money-back guarantee, and you can get it now plus other valuable free resources at mindpumpmedia.com. If you enjoy this show, please share the love by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and by introducing Mind Pump to your friends and family. We thank you for your support, and until next time, this is Mind Pump.